shake my hand. See that? I'm like, geez, thanks. Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Do not arm wrestle him.
Anyhow, thanks for the introduction, and I want to thank Emily in the back for getting me involved in this. I've much appreciated on that. What I'm going to talk about is networking, but before I do, I want to talk about my business a little bit more. What I do, as you heard already, is all the technical writing stuff. Within that, I help mostly entrepreneurs, startup companies, but anybody that needs help with it, I will help with. We also have a printing side of the business too, so if you need business cards, everybody will need those eventually. If you need anything for your business, just come see us on that. On a side note, what wasn't talked about either, it sounds like I'm the biggest, greatest guy in the world. I am known as the networking king of Pittsburgh. It's not self-proclaimed either, but I was an engineer for 10 years, like we heard, and throughout all that, it was tough being an engineer from here working in Silicon Valley. Big difference in change. I didn't even know where it was at first, let alone live out there. And throughout all that, layoffs, buyouts, different things, probably early 2000, a little bit before that is when that happened. And I came back to Pittsburgh and said, okay, I'll be an engineer again. Had my bachelor's degree and came back, and I was too qualified. From there, I said, okay, I finally found a job in 2 years. Worked in Altoona, of all places, middle of the state. Didn't even know where that was at first because I'm from Mars, Pennsylvania, a small little town. And, worked there for a couple of years, and then they got bought out. So between that, I went back to school and said, go to school. That'll make sense to get another degree. I'll be qualified. I could get a job in engineering, no problem. Come back to Pittsburgh area. I come back here from that. No way. Nobody wanted me. Too qualified, too much this, too much that. And it really hurt. So throughout that, I learned that, okay, I need to find my religion in that. And I kept thinking and saying, what do I need to do? And I go to St. Killian's up in Mars. And my father went there as a kid. And I said, okay, I'll start going there. And that's where I found everything. It just really hit home that, okay, I need to do something on my own. If nobody wants to hire me because I'm too qualified, for whatever reason they believe, then I need to do that kind of thing. And it took a while, and I started another business with some partners, and that really didn't work out. So from there, I went back to entrepreneur events. And I thought all the entrepreneurs would be the people that I could talk to and say, hey, I know 5 million things that I could help you with, because you're not going to hire everybody in the world to help you with your business. So I'd go to those, and people were like, well, what do you do? And I started talking to them, and a couple of people said, well, you wrote a business plan for that business that you helped out with, or you wrote this, or you wrote that. And I said, yeah, I did. And they said, well, can you write this for us? Can you write that? I said, yeah, okay, I could do that. And that's kind of where between that and I said, my religion, I said, sounds like a business. I might have to do something with this. And I took it from there and said, all right, let's just say I could write stuff for people as I did as an engineer. And just kept doing it, more and more events. And eventually people say, wait a minute, I see you at this event. I see you at that event. How do you know about this event? How do you know about that event? And it was from going to these events and knowing, as my last newsletter I put out talks about your 30-second commercial. Tell people exactly what you do in 30 seconds or less. So I would go to the events, and I had that down pat. And they're saying, oh, okay, well, how do you know about that event? And I said, well, someone at the other event invited me to that one. And it just kept going from there, and people just got to know me from the events and didn't think about the writing as much and just said, you're always at these events. How come you're at so many events? And I kept telling people that it's because you need to grow your business, and that's your marketing. So that's my plug to everybody. It's a cheaper way for your marketing to help out. And I would just go, and I don't even remember who did it. Some guy that was at one of the events came up to me and said, dude, you're like the king of all this. You come to all the events. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you're the networking king. I'm like, okay. So then, you need something that people are going to remember you by when you go to an event. So I went to the next one. I said, oh, hi, my name is Chad. I'm the networking king of Pittsburgh. Nobody remembered Chad. They said, the networking what? So that's my tagline that I used for people, and I kept playing with it. And people were like, oh, okay, networking king. And they would stop and say, oh, what do you do? So I would have them in there. So now I have to make sure I have my 30-second commercial down real well on what I do to explain it to them. Most people don't care about the writing on that. They're just like, well, you're the networking guy. Why do you write? How does that work together? So I had to explain that in a little bit more detail, and eventually we'd keep going to the events, and I didn't say anything more about the writing. I just said, I'm the networking king of Pittsburgh. People got laugh out of it, people got chuckle, but they know I'm serious on it, and I would keep going to events and just introduce myself that way. And I'd know different people, and people would come in, and I'd say, oh, hey, Mike, you want to meet Tom? From the events, and it just kind of goes from there. And in about a year and a half, I met about 2,000 people that I deal with all the time now. And I keep growing it from that I meet more and more people like yourselves here, and just how can I help each other out with business. And I think that came from God too, that somehow early in my career, back when I was 16, I started in a restaurant like probably most of us. And I became a manager at 17. And from there, I had to talk to the public. I had to talk to different people and make sure everybody was okay with everything that they were eating and it was all good, everything. So I would learn how to communicate with people, and people look at me and say, okay, then how'd the engineering thing come in? Well, that's because I think I forgot what I was supposed to do, or didn't even believe in it at first, and went to school for engineering because I thought that was the best thing to do. And it was a good thing, but it's not what I was supposed to do. And through going back to St. Killian's, I learned that, I need to go with God and what he tells me to do. And he tells me to help people. And that's where, throughout my businesses too, Chris was talking about, we all need to take time for ourselves. And that's what I do. I go to the networking events for me. I mean, that's for my business, of course, too. But it's me taking the stress out of my day and relaxing and having fun and meeting people and finding out what all you guys do in your businesses. I mean, there's some businesses I heard of that I never even thought that would have been possible. But I did, and I just met great people, like I said, from it, and just keep going to events. And how do I share the wealth that I learned from it all to all you guys? And that's what I'm doing today. And I try to speak to people on, maybe you're afraid. You go to an event, but you're afraid to meet new people. That's the purpose going to the events. You need to meet new people. You don't want to talk to the people that you know already. You can see them other places. You're at a networking event, you're trying to talk about your business. Talk to new people. Spend that time with them. Introduce yourselves, tell them a little bit about your business, make sure they understand it, but also make it more about them, because everybody likes to know about themselves more than they do about the other person. So keep talking to them about that. And a couple rules on that I learned is, try to remember that person's at least first name when you meet them. So you introduce yourself, they introduce them. So say it was, again, person's name is maybe Mike. Thanks, Mike. As you're talking to the person, keep using his name. And there's a rule of 3 on that one, that the more times that you say a person's name or something that you think about, you're going to remember it. So, as you're going through the talk with him, make sure you do that. Make sure you give a firm handshake. It's almost like you're in an interview, I would say. And just, be really kind to everybody. Don't spend as much time as you think you need with the person, because you got a whole room. If you spent 1 minute with everybody in this room, that's hours, and that's great. You want to, but you want to spend quality time with that person. And, I think people, you get the perception in your head that you're going to get upset if you leave that person and they're going to be ignored. They're not. We're all here for that same kind of goal, like I said, to meet different people. So you could go back to them later on if you have to, but try to meet many people, and then don't ask, don't give your business card out right away. Ask them to, for their business card. And then at the same time, give your business card. Because most of the time, what people do, you give your business card out, what do they do with it? They don't keep it. So if you ask for their business card, again, you're making it all about them. You get it, and make sure after the event to send a little thank you note. I like to do a personal one if I can, first time, but even a little email, just, hey, thanks, nice to meet you, Mike, at blah 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 event, and make sure you put all that in there. You want to tell them where you met them, because if you're like me, I'm at 3 or 4 events a day sometimes. I'm not going to remember, I met Mike at, this event compared to that event, if I don't put that in a specification in an email. If you need to, you could hear from Carrie later on LinkedIn how to use it, but you could even use that to send the little thank you note, because then you could add them on there, and that's where, I have people on that too, but I'm not going to steal Carrie's thunder on that one. What you want to do too is just constantly follow up with that person. Try to meet for lunch or breakfast or some kind of event that you can meet them later on and learn more about their business. You have that little bit of time at the meeting that you have initially with them, but now go meet again. Buy them lunch. Everybody likes to have lunch for them. Me too. So anybody wants to do it. Do that and talk about more about your businesses and how you can help each other. And that's where I think my biggest strength is, to do that talk to you and understand what you do. And a lot of people will come up and say, hey, I'm just struggling. I'm starting my business